Hi, everyone. We're going to give you a couple of minutes to get settled. Also, I want to let you know we can't see you. So you exist for us as typing in a chat. So totally recommend you open the chat right now and say hello to us. I'm Julie Sheehan. I teach creative writing here at Stony Brook, and am myself a poet. I've published 3 books of poetry and am working on some essays right now. Hello, I'm seeing people in the chat. Yay! Oh, it's 2 a.m. for one of you. Lord, holy moly. So it's great to see all these hellos. And it's great to welcome you to our workshop on writing on creative ways into the college essay. And we're going to work from our own strengths, which is as creative writers. As I said, I'm a poet. We also have with us Genevieve Crane.
Hello. And I'm a novelist, so I have 2 books. One will be out next summer, this time next year, and my other book is a novel called Sorority. We've got a novelist and a poet here.
So we're going to work with you guys today and treat you all like the writers that you are. So you're going to be using the chat to do your own work in. Of course, you can also handwrite on a piece of paper. That's what I do. And then retype in the chat if you want to do something like that. But we're going to work today on a few sentences that we think can help launch you into a productive essay, because your essay is really just a little collection of sentences, and you don't have very many. So you want them all to be really, really good, especially that first one. So we're going to get to that in a second. Before we do, I'm going to do a quick poll of our gang here and find out where you are on writing your college essay. Are you putting finishing touches on your brilliance? Are you chugging along on a good draft? Are you, please stop bothering me about this? I'm going to do it, Mom. I'm going to do it. Or are you at the blank stare of pure terror? These are the many phases of writing your college essay. Let's give you another 10 seconds.
A little bit like watching a horse race, and I am not surprised to see blank stare of pure terror pulling ahead here. And I think many of us have been in that place before. So it's although it's frightening, it is not a permanent state, and hopefully we can help pull you out of that today.
The truthful pain of the forced option. Here we are. Here's our sum total. We've got 44% of you in the blank stare of pure terror. There's 4% of you in the putting finishing touches on your brilliance. And even you may walk away from this with some new ideas to rearrange the collection of sentences that is your essay. So, feel free to like tear apart that brilliance and put it in a slightly different order based on what you learned here today with us. The 2 middle categories, I bow to you, worthy. And of course, my heart goes out to the blank stares of pure terror. That's enough of that. Let's get to our slideshow. I'm going to share my screen. And then I'm going to ask for your, it's already in presentation mode, but on the wrong slide. Sorry about that. All right, we're going to start at starting strong. And what we're going to do in this is just look at a practice, a couple of different kinds of sentences that you're going to provide drafts of here in our workshop. And once again, our names are on this presentation, which we're going to make available to you as a PDF if you want to refer back to any of the materials here. or to us. But let's start with the obvious, which is what not to do.
You know, Julie, I was thinking if anybody's ever watched The Office, there's a fantastic episode where they have a run for rabies, like a 5K. And one of the employees asks another employee what their plan is. And he says, well, I'm going to start strong and I'm going to then keep being strong and then end really, really strong. So I know it's a big ask, but today we're just looking at start strong, and what not to do is a great way to sort of get an idea of how to direct ourselves in a more positive way. So what not to do would be stating the obvious. I've always loved to write. I have blonde hair. You know, if you know me well enough, then an obvious statement might be, I am a Libra, right? We don't need factual statements in an essay. Your application is going to reveal many of those factual statements. It's good to ground us a little bit, but just be aware of having sort of like subject verb sentences. I am this, I am this, I am this throughout the entire essay. I hope to go to college. Well, of course, you're applying here. My role model is, and certainly the celebrity here, unless it's a really, really shocking role model, I would avoid that one. Also, we have avoiding awkward. Another way to say this would be avoiding shock factor, right? Like snot flowing from a runny nose, words slide off my pen. Don't be gross or weird just for the sake of making us pay attention. It is certainly a way to hook a reader, but it's not necessarily the way that you want to hook a reader on a college essay. Remember that your essay is a way to introduce you as a good citizen of the world, right? Not a creepy citizen. Although you can be good and creepy. Let's keep it closer to the side of good.
If you're not sure, take your first sentence and give it to some other people and look at their reactions, because it comes from the awkward sentence comes from the place of, I want to write something really catchy that will, hook my reader. I've been told to do that. And definitely, like snot flowing from a runny nose, words slide off my pen catches our attention just for the wrong reasons.
Right. If you hand that essay to your best friend and the face they make is on the first sentence, it's a red flag. Very good. And then just straight up untrue or embellished, right? No, nobody lies and says, oh, I'm lying, I'm really going to pull one over on them. But beware of even over embellishing. I was a child prodigy. Well, what does that actually mean? Were you in like mini Mensa? Can you define those parameters? Because otherwise it just sounds sort of over the top. Today's society is corrupt because of video games. I mean, that's a very reductive approach to start an essay, right? Especially if you're beginning any essay to get into college about what's happening with today's society. I can tell you that you're not focusing enough on you. And that's what we're really interested in. It's great to have opinions, but let's make sure that those opinions are also balanced with who you are in your college essay. So, Julie?
Let's do our own versions of lame. I'm sure you guys can think of a truly awful sentence, either beyond awkward or like so inflated in its claims that you could never actually prove it in an essay. Or what was our first category?
So we could do awkward, we could do untrue, you could do stating the obvious, any of those possibilities.
All right, so let's get your writing chops going. I'm going to give you guys 60 seconds to come up with the worst possible sentence that you could submit in a college essay and get that thing into the chat.
I want to come up with one too. Let's see. That's actually, I want to go to college to get a more advanced education. Yep, that's a really good example of stating the obvious. I love that one. I'm not sure college is for me. I have two sisters and they're all annoying. Oh, wow. A lot of really good ones are coming in here. So I'm going to just pull out a couple. The world is failing us due to hot foods. Now, I want to get to know that person a little bit more, but that's a weird first line on an essay. It's an excellent weird first line that we might want to avoid. I will be a good addition to your school. Yes. Again, stating the obvious, right? I have here what is very likely a potential lie. I fly planes every day to go to school. Man, if that's true, I want some serious proof backing that up in the rest of the essay. And I want it to be more than just sort of puffing out your chest. I want real logic behind why is that relevant? Why is that important? I was born at a very young age. My hat off to you. Very good, Erin. Okay. Like giraffes, I have a purple tongue. I just had like 2 gumballs before we logged onto this chat. I don't want to tell you what color my tongue is right now, but that's not the point. Okay. Let's see. I'm going to pull 2 more. These are all really great though. I mostly want to go to this college for the Halloween parties. I mean, Stony Brook has fantastic Halloween parties. You are right, but not a great reason to write an essay.
Oh.
I'm good at everything I do. Oh yes, to be that kind of confident, right? But maybe something that we want when we're experiencing a more nuanced approach in our writing. These are fantastic. Thank you for writing such terrible lines, everybody.
Can I just one more? The dead snake skin slithered off as I watched in glee, as it perfectly encapsulating my desire to become the person I always wanted to be.
Oh, that's a good one. I can't believe I missed that. That's fantastic.
I love it. So you guys can write. And actually, being able to write badly is harder than it looks. So how do I stop my stopwatch? Nope, stop, reset. Okay, sorry. That's the behind the scenes. So clearly you guys are, your imaginations are working full throttle, and I have confidence in all of you, from those truly terrible examples to be able to write a really, really good sentence, because it's not easy to write a terrible sentence on purpose. So what to do instead, Genevieve?
So the law of opposites would imply if we know how to do something badly, we probably know how to do it well. I think what happens to a lot of us is we just sort of lock up and panic because the pressure is on to write something good. And it feels like the pressure is not there to write something bad. But my friends, it is. It's hard to be terrible. And I'm proud to say that you were all very terrible in this chat just now. So if we look at what to do instead, something intriguing, something that evokes some curiosity, maybe something that you love or that you really vehemently dislike. All of those are really nice approaches to have when beginning an essay. So that's just one of the many possible outlets for approach, but we're going to look at intrigue and we're going to look at cliffhanger as 2 big guides that you can use when you're thinking about writing your essay. So for intrigue, here are two intriguing lines that might make us want to read more. This is by Emily Flake. Is it possible to have a crush on a song? I just love that first line. Is it possible to have a crush on a song? I mean, I'd say yes, right? But I want this reader to prove more. Hopefully the rest of this essay will have a specific song in mind. It might talk about this writer's romance with music, the emotive effect of music on their life. It's a great opportunity for them to sort of hook into something that has influenced them in early years and that they have grown with over time and evolved with over time. Another example would be, I've always hated the letter E. So notice how both of these imply something intriguing that is either loved or disliked or reviled. A lot of you on TikTok probably saw this viral video that came out around May of this year with Abigail Mack. So she posted the essay that got her into Harvard and Notre Dame and Northwestern, and this was her opening sentence. I've always hated the letter E. So you can Google that and very easily find it. It's, I think, a 5-minute essay if you are able to track it down online. Again, really intriguing. Why would somebody hate a letter? It's polarizing. strange. It's a little bit weird, but it's not creepy weird. It's weird enough that I want to keep reading. An alternative might be, if you don't want to do the like or dislike approach, you could approach your essay through a cliffhanger. So, sorry, go ahead, Julie.
We think about what makes something a cliffhanger, what creates that sense of tension. It's usually that there's information that has gone unexplained, right? That's the key element. And in a way, that's the key element in an intrigue like dislike sentence, right? It's we don't know why this person has this crush on this song. We don't know why this person has always hated the letter E. So it's giving us information, but withholding the why in those first two. In a cliffhanger sentence, it's also packed with information that's not explained, unexplained facts. And we have two examples here, one from Justin Torres and one from George Orwell. You cannot go wrong with either of these writers. They're both great. So here's the one from Justin Torres. My brother and I walked to the laundromat. He's carrying the clothes I bought him last week, which are the only clothes he owns at the moment.
So much in that sentence, right? So much. Intriguing, and yet we already have an idea of what is going on. Clearly, this brother is experiencing some sort of turmoil in his life. If you own one set of clothes, something is happening to you. It's a great mid-action sentence. Julie, do you like the second one or the first one more? Orwell's or Torres's? Which one stands out to you?
Man, I really love the Orwell sentence. How about you, Genevieve?
It comes down to taste, I guess. I do love the Torres line a little bit more, but even if I love the Torres line more, I can still see the value in the Orwell line. And I think that's worth thinking about as well. You know, as long as we have a good writer on our hands and somebody who's writing with clarity and confidence, taste is a little bit subjective and we can still identify talent.
In that second sentence, in Moulmein, in Lower Burma, we're getting really specific information about where we are, where the story is going to be. I was hated by large numbers of people. And that's the part that's what we would say the hook, right? Mm-hmm. Whoa, how do you get hated by large numbers of people? The only time in my life that I have been important enough for this to happen to me. It's already starting to develop an idea that in order to be hated by large numbers of people, you have to be important, and that doesn't happen very often. So here again, we're at the in that cliffhanger mode of how do you get into that situation? Both of these sentences are taken from the climax of a story, right? And we can tell, we know that something has led up to this, right? You don't get to be hated by large numbers of people until a series of events have happened that have elevated your importance and God knows what else, right? Similarly, with the Torres line, we're at some kind of crisis moment. My brother and I, the speaker has only bought these clothes last week. So that's when whatever crisis that caused all clothing to be gone, happened. So we're getting information. We know there's a story. We just don't know what the story is. Okay, let's look at this third one, and we're going to ask for some feedback in the chat for this one. Mobile Bay is shaped like a baby's foot, fat and uncalloused. Why do you think we even picked that sentence to put on this slide? What's working about that sentence that made us want to show it to you?
Fancy literary device. You wonder why the shape is relevant. It's random, simile and comparison. There's a very visual comparison. Maya says it's a random fact that made me double think about it.
Unusual comparison,
Hmm.
a vocabulary.
I think a lot of these are circling, if not just
Absolutely.
paraphrasing the approach that we found when we were looking at this line, Julie, right? So this is a description that reveals writer identity here. We know what kind of person this is just from the language and the choice. Not all of your friends are going to describe a landmark as looking like a baby's foot, right? That's a specific kind of person, and that's clearly being told through their lens and their experience. Anytime that you can describe something that is a little bit informed of your own personal background, it's just a really successful way to propel narrative, give us setting, and also give a sense of identity all in one punch. It's a little tricky to do, but it's definitely a worthwhile skill to play around with.
Now, the hardest thing about this kind of unusual, weird, makes you want to keep reading, thought-provoking, you have to follow up later in the essay, right? So already reading this first description of what a bay looks like, we're starting to make assumptions about who is telling us this. So what's really being revealed is not just the nature of Mobile Bay, what it looks like, but also the nature of the person telling us this, right? So it's unusual in that Imani Perry is unusual, is a singular, unique individual. And the nature of the story is going to have something to do with how a baby's foot, fat and uncalloused, what does that tell us? Like, that's a vulnerability. That's someone who notices both how a baby is prospering, but also how a baby is weak, right? So a really complicated psychology starts to be revealed by the description. It's
Absolutely.
super hard. All of these sentences were probably written after the writer already knew what the story was they were going to tell, right? You can't write a kick-ass, pardon my French, opening sentence without having some idea of where you're going with it, right? So if you read the rest of the Mobile Bay essay, the Perry essay, you would want it to fulfill some kind of exploration of the difference between being uncalloused, unbattered by life, and battered by life, which is where our narrator is now, right? So there might be a certain degree of envy of the baby's uncalloused state. Okay? All right. So 3 possibilities. All of them have met with success in numerous essays. You'll start to see this kind of opening gambit in essays that you read. But let's us, for our little time together, really focus on this cliffhanger idea, right? So let's take a few minutes and think about a story from your life that changed you, something that happened that changed something about you. Maybe you went from uncalloused to calloused, or maybe maybe it was more subtle than that. But just an event, any event that changed you. It's going to be a story that your reader does not.
And by the way, it does not have to be the most horrible thing that's happened to you. If you want it to be, fine. But I think a lot of people make that mistake, right? That it has to be the worst day of your life. It has to be the best day of your life. Those are rich opportunities, but don't feel obligated to make one of those opportunities your personal essay. It could be something a little more nuanced, a little more meaningful to you. Sorry, Julie, I didn't mean to interrupt there. I just wanted to add.
No, absolutely. Everything you've said. And what you're going to do is pack a sentence in the same way that Justin Torres did, with information about the climax. walking to the laundromat, the only clothes that he owns at this moment that I bought him 2 weeks ago. Like that kind of information is going to be packed into the sentence. You're going to write it from the at the climax, the moment of greatest tension in your story. But you're not going to explain everything that led up to it. You're just going to put the climax in there. Any questions about that?
I see a couple of prompts in the chat, Julie, that might be kind of cool to talk about, but let's focus on this prompt first, everybody, and take a minute to really think about this as an opportunity. And then maybe we can go back and chat about some of the stuff that's coming up in the chat as well.
Great. All right. So I'll give you everyone 2 minutes. You might want to scratch this one out on a piece of paper and then come back to the chat. Okay. 2 minutes. Another 20 seconds. Is that enough time?
Yeah, there's some really fantastic questions and examples coming up here.
Okay. Yeah, let's look at some of these. Genevieve, what's jumping out at you?
So let me scroll a little bit. So an example of a cliffhanger that stands out right away is trapped underneath the wave, I felt the air leaving my lungs. How did you get there? You know, that is very evocative. I have a lot of questions. Notice, by the way, it's not fancy highfalutin language. It is just clean mid-action stuff. And as long as you're following up with that, maybe this essay will be thematically about any time in this person's life in which they've felt like they were low on air, either metaphorically or physically, right? That's a great way to sort of examine one's life through a theme. It also carries in a little bit to a question that a student asked, does the essay have to be about one event or can it be about a series of events? Unfortunately, the answer could be either. I wish there was a clean answer and I could say, oh, just one event or just a series, but theme is going to inform you. It could just be how you reacted to one singular moment, an encounter with a wave in which you are almost killed, right? And the repercussions of that, if they were serious or informed your life in some way, or alternatively, it could be a series of anecdotes in which you might have felt suffocated. Julie, are you seeing any in here?
Well, another very similarly information-packed, but withholding how we got here, is walking into the airplane. I knew this wouldn't be the last time. I'd be moving to yet another place. Look at how packed that is with information. It's on an airplane. So we're getting a sense of a location. Wouldn't be the last time I'd be moving. So this person has had to go through this ritual of departure multiple times in the past and in the future, right? So much going on just in that little, and yet another place seals the deal that this has been an ongoing practice leading up to this moment and is predicted to continue.
I love that this writer doesn't seem sorry for themselves either. It's just statement of fact. We're going to learn more about their personality as the essay progresses, but it's not a self-pitying statement. Yet does a lot of work there, right? Because it tells us about fatigue, but it doesn't necessarily say like, oh, this writer is so beleaguered and sick of it all. And it's interesting. It's a good move.
How about
just one thing before I forget. A student asked, can the essay or the opening line be from a song or a show, or more like an experience that we've heard about? What do you think, Julie?
Well, my college essay opened with a quote from a poem. Again, as with the revelation through description, you got to deliver on the promise, right? Mm-hmm. So if it's the perfect setup, if it's the fat and uncalloused of quotes, then yeah, you can use borrowed language to kickstart your essay.
As long as it truly moves you, right? I think you can smell a rat when it's just something that you think sounds cool, but if it truly is something that has moved you and informed your life and followed you everywhere, and Julie, I know you probably had a poem in your pocket, right? That you'd carried with you for a long time and it felt informative of your life. But do not do the thing, everybody, where you're like, you know what I'll do? I'll start with an Albert Einstein quote and they're going to think I'm real smart, right? Just be mindful of that.
Yeah, I'll tell you what the quote was. It was a Carl Sandburg poem called The Limited. And the quote was something, it was just a little bit of dialogue. One person saying, where are we going? Which if I just chosen that would be like, oh, it's about the metaphysical nature of, our life's journey. But the next bit of dialogue is Omaha. So one person saying, where are we going? The next person replying, Omaha. And the poem's actually about, taking the limited to Omaha. And, the speaker of the poem is asking a bunch of metaphysical questions about the meaning of life and its journey. But the universe replies that your journey is to Omaha, right? so you're much better off quoting Omaha than quoting where are we going. Mm-hmm. See the difference? If you didn't have Omaha, it wouldn't work.
You need Omaha.
You need that Omaha, right? Let's look at some more examples here.
I was taught to believe I was ugly.
That's a brilliant sentence.
So good. And the one after it too, when it was all over and we all climbed the stairs to the roof, it looked as if an atomic bomb had dropped. Both of those are cliffhangers in very distinctive ways, right? One of them is giving us consequence of a moral code that has been inflicted on this person about beauty. The other one is quite literally mid-action or immediately after action.
Another mid-action one, they still think I'm dead. Mm-hmm. Like, whoa, how did you get to be the most important person to be hated by, untold numbers of people? It's got that level of like, whoa, what happened there? How did we get there? Mm-hmm. Standing there, breathing heavy, waiting for my opportunity to run. My bag broke, but I had to leave it behind because my life was ending before it began. Okay, that sentence is a good draft. It needs some editing, right? I mean, you might take a page from some of these other sentences and pare it down to, my life was ending before it began, period.
And then give us that second line telling us more, but we're getting ahead of ourselves.
Yeah, yeah. Start there. That's a statement that has a lot of information in it that's not explained. Going back to the one that Genevieve mentioned about, I was taught to believe, I'm not looking at the sentence, so I might have the words a little bit wrong. I was taught to believe
that I was ugly. Yeah, I've scrolled down as well too, but
okay.
Yeah.
Look how packed that is with I was taught. I was taught tells us there's a society around this speaker. This speaker's, is it family members? Is it the culture? Is it the immediate environs of high school? Where is this teaching coming from? So that's a good bit of cliffhanger writing there. Yeah, have you found some other sentences?
I woke up to the horses loose in our yard at 4 a.m. We don't own horses. It's 2 sentences, but I love it.
Brilliant.
It's very good. There's a question. Do you recommend that I use a powerful quote that has made me see something in a different perspective in the first sentence of my essay? If it truly has, it's worth trying that angle. If you behaved a certain way and then you encountered a quote and your behavior changed, and you can give us concrete examples, then that's a cool way to frame the essay. Just make sure that it really is true in your gut. And again, we're not doing the Albert Einstein quote thing.
And you might fold the quote into a sentence that says, as the horse stood in my yard, I thought, quote, whatever. Of course, the horse in your case isn't standing in the yard. That's someone else's story. But there's a story that's leading up to it. So get the climax of that story in there, the moment of greatest tension, which is what was happening when this quote came to you that changed how you think about yourself. So here's one that let's talk briefly about. During the summer after 7th grade, I moved from an urban Queens to a suburban Long Island, leaving me in a new world. Okay, that sentence is not from the climax. It's not the moment of greatest tension. It's the exposition, right? It's setting the scene for what happens, and it's speaking fairly generally, except for that new world. So what if you started a sentence like that with the end and brought the end to the beginning, right? I was dropped in a new world, or I was left in a new world. Mm-hmm. And then you can explain it later. You can come back to this story later and fill in the gaps. It was during the summer after 7th grade, I moved from urban Queens to suburban Long Island, but the moment of emotional tension is in that, like, stranger in a strange land situation. How can you put that in a sentence?
It's a good idea. I like the concept a lot of like this dichotomy. I think you're right. Opening with a little bit more intensity in the beginning, and also specificity always helps, because Queens is massive, right? And so I want to know, like, what was it like on your street in Queens? Like, I lived in Briarwood for 3 years. That's very different from living in, say, Corona. Were there stray cats on your street? Were you friendly with them? Did it feel like home? Did you have a neighbor who always left oil when they were parked on the side? Did you have to move your car on Sunday morning, or did your mom have to? I want that specificity, and I also want the specificity of what feels weird or unusual about Long Island, this new world. What makes it alien to you? And the more descriptive you can get, the more we are going to learn about who you are, which is exciting. We want that. Any others?
I never thought that the answer to who I was stood within some applause from people I knew nothing of. That's a cliffhanger. We're at the moment of applause. The speaker's in some kind of situation where the applauders are unknown to the speaker, but that somehow this situation showed this writer something about themselves. That's a classic cliffhanger moment. A question: is there a way that we can write a sentence of heavy tension with such causality? Like this event happens every day to everyone?
Well, is it something that actually happens every day to the writer? So, for example, growing up, my father had seizures a lot. So for me, a seizure was a normal part of my life, and I could speak about it very casually. You know, at 4:30, my father had yet another seizure. Start a sentence that way. But it has to be authentic, you know, uh, and just factual and to the point. I don't know. What do you think, Julie?
I wonder if it's about a particular sentence. I'd love to see an example of what Maya means by causality.
While that's getting clarified, there's a great question. How believing are essay readers in general? I read the Costco essay and I have a hard time believing a high school student would see a tub of mayo and start calculating projectile motion if the tub were dropped from 80 feet. I have not read this Costco essay. It sounds hilarious. So there's always a little bit of suspension of disbelief, right? Always a little bit. I'd have to read this essay to see whether or not I think that this Costco writer is full of mayo or not. But I don't know. I mean, just hearing that summary, I find that intriguing. I'm entertained by the idea of some like very fastidious kid trying to figure out the projectile cause of an 80 thing of mayo. Or an 80-foot projectile of mayo. That's kind of funny.
Yeah. What keeps us reading is who the writer is, not what happened to the writer. And you got to pack those facts in there. You got to get that information in. But we're much more interested in who this is. And if someone is the type of kid who calculates, the rate of speed and, looks like that would be about this far. If you're the type of kid who imagines formulas everywhere you go, and you write an honest essay, it will be believable that you saw a tub of mayo and started calculating projectile motion.
For what it's worth, my twin worked at Goldman Sachs for a long time. And in his interview at Goldman, they asked him, what is the distance of the Earth to the sun? Can he calculate it in his head? And they wanted to see how he would estimate and come to that conclusion as part of the hiring process. And he'd played stupid games like that all his life, where he was like, well, I know the distance from the moon is this. And then he made this estimate number in the interview and didn't come up with like a precise answer, but came up with like a reasonable ballpark that was intriguing to the interviewer. So there are some people out there who really do think about, velocity and like what's happening in the world and how, and can I put a number on it? They may not be in the chat, but.
Yeah, look in the chat, that kid who would talk through, all right, here are the mathematical assumptions I'm making, your brother, Genevieve, or the kid in the Costco essay. Right. Look at the difference between that and the sample right above it in the chat. It's Sarah Thayer. It sounded like thunder, but there was no lightning, just me and a starting line. Mm-hmm. You're done there, by the way. Get rid of that next sentence. All right, next sentence not nearly as good as the sounded like thunder, but no lightning, just me and a starting line. We're getting a picture of a human being who would make that association. So that speaker associates with a natural phenomenon, the sound of the crowd maybe, or the starting gun at a relay race or whatever this is. That association is very different from thinking in mathematical formulas. And ultimately, an admissions committee wants to feel like they're admitting a human being, not like a resume, not a piece of paper, a human being. So if you can get the tension, the moment of tension into a sentence, a cliffhanger sentence that doesn't apologize or over explain, it just gives you that little moment. It's a compelling start.
Absolutely.
There's a bunch of great examples here. But
so Maya's put in the causal thing, and the only thing I want to posit is the world is dark, but every light is on. I realize it was just my brain switching signals or something like that. I would be talking, and Maya is saying that they would be talking about migraines, right? I would just say, once again, the world is dark, but every light is on. Then keep describing.
That's your opening. Yes. Yeah.
Because that's how it's implying. It happens all the time. Yeah.
And that's where you're gonna start at the cliffhanger. You're not gonna explain just yet. So it brings up the question of, all right, I got my cliffhanger sentence. I'm hated by large numbers of people, or I'm walking to the laundromat with my brother. He's carrying the clothes I bought him last week, which are the only clothes he owns at the moment. What do I do next? And let's look at the Justin Torres essay and see what he did next, right? What he did next is a sentence that stays right in that climax moment, right? He talks to me about the dignity of work and the indignities of charity. Mm-hmm. That's adding some information to the first sentence. Dignity of work, indignities of charity. The brother is broke. That's why he doesn't have any clothes. That's why I'm going to the laundromat with him. That's why I had to buy him the clothes. I have money, my brother does not. He's suffering the indignities of charity. The reader is filling in story on your behalf. You don't have to do it, because in a cliffhanger sentence, you're withholding story, and let the reader bring what they're imagining to it. And then this third sentence. It's October in LA. Sometime in the late morning or early afternoon, which is to say, it's all unrelenting brilliance and very few shadows, and the midterm elections are coming up.
The smart sentence, right? Because it subtextually tells us a lot. So we know right away.
The subtext, and I'm going to let you talk about that, Genevieve. Let's say text. Mm-hmm. On its surface, it's a sentence about the setting, time of day, time of year, location, it's place and time. Okay. Subtext.
No, it's good. I'm glad you pointed that out, right? Because we don't want to get too out of our world. We do want to know what's happening in here, and Torres is doing that really clearly. But subtextually, unrelenting brilliance. It's all unrelenting brilliance and very few shadows. So this is a place that does not allow darkness. He's saying it pretty clearly. Midterm elections are coming up. That could either be doom or hope, depending on what kind of life that this person is coming from, and what election cycle it is and how it's impacting them personally. But we already have a very clear idea of socially, economically, what's going on in the lives of these two brothers. And we can also tell, if we had to guess, that this essay is probably going to be about how Justin Torres's brother has informed his life and his experience, and has perhaps made him change how he approaches his daily life. So it's a really useful lens, once again, to look at something very complicated. How do you summarize your entire life? You take a cliffhanger subject, and you look at that lens and focus for the rest of the essay.
So let's take think back to that earlier sentence. Mobile Bay was compared to the baby's foot, fat and uncalloused. It was a description of setting, just like this sentence. But look what got added on, fat and uncalloused. Why didn't the writer just say Mobile Bay was shaped like a baby's foot and there? In this sentence on the slide we're looking at now, it's October in LA, sometime in the late morning or early afternoon, and the midterm elections are coming up. Why didn't the writer just say that?
Mm-hmm.
Place, time. That's the information about place and time. The writer added in that, which is to say, it's all unrelenting brilliance and very few shadows. That part is the window into the psychology of the describer. And remember, you want your essay to be about you, to reveal the human being that you are. So that's the little moment where the description has lifted off from just getting the job done to being also about the person, in the way that the description of Mobile Bay was about Mobile Bay, but also starting to reveal characteristics. And I would jump on that word unrelenting as a really brilliant choice. Unrelenting brilliance means you can suffer from it. Could the brother be schizophrenic? Schizophrenics are oftentimes highly cursed with a brilliance. It can be considered sometimes a disease of brilliance. It's an unrelenting brilliance. And very few shadows, which may sound like a good thing, but then where do you hide? How do you get away? Unrelenting brilliance doesn't give you very much space to be comfortable in. And it's a very uncomfortable time of day. And that tension that's coming from that emotional glimpse is what's making that not just a description of the setting, but also a revelation of character. Let's do it. Let's do it. We can do it. I know these are hard sentences to write, but let's do it. You've got your climax sentence, and maybe you've already started tweaking that a little bit, right? Go back to that moment of climax, your climax sentence, and now add a second sentence that gives us that setting, but also reveals something. It's revelatory. It reveals something about you. So that's why we had an example from the chat where I was like, you're done with your first sentence, get rid of your second sentence, replace it with one that does this. Keep raising the stakes. Don't get lazy. Push it up another notch. The second sentence is going to do two things. It's going to give us your setting. You know, I was in JFK, the airport one about this would not be the only time or the last time I would be arriving
Yep.
location, that sentence, like, okay, now put us in JFK or put us in LaGuardia or put us in whatever, you know, Mumbai. I don't know where this airport was. You do. You're going to give us a sentence to give us the airport and the time of, you know, the season, the time of day, whatever, and a revelation of who you are. How you describe the setting is going to tell us in a hint about who you are. Not easy. You have 2 minutes. No. that's our timer of.
I love your chime. So
You need a little more time?
I see a few here that we could chat about.
Oh, awesome. Take it.
So I'm just looking. So here's one that is in the right direction. I just think that we could maybe hone it a little more. So the first sentence is, I have always known that honesty was an important moral. However, I never knew that being untruthful could have such life-changing consequences. Firsthand, I witnessed how a person's deceit could almost cost me my home and the people I love most. Now that is intriguing, but I want to know, why is it not more specific? You know, I'm already interested, but don't be afraid to give us what is actually happening here. Like, Julie, can you guess what's happening in these opening sentence, in that opening statement?
I'm having trouble finding it in the chat. Give me the opening words again.
So I have always known that honesty was an important moral. However, I never knew that being untruthful could have such life-changing consequences. Firsthand, I witnessed how a person's deceit would almost cost me my home with the people I love most.
Ah, yeah, this person staying in the cliffhanger mode of withholding. In the second sentence, you have to start delivering some of the facts.
Yep.
I was 7 years old.
When what, right? Like, what happened? Because I'm already intrigued. The first sentence has me. Now give me more. I don't want to be held in suspense for too long. I think it's a great start, by the way, so don't be discouraged, writer. But we want that specificity. We want a little bit more. Julie, what about this one? It was a Saturday morning like any other. What would you do with that first sentence? Do you like it?
As the cliffhanger, that's the second sentence, right?
This is the first sentence. It was a Saturday morning like any other. And then the next sentence is, knowing the store would open at 10 a.m., my mother and I hopped in the car at 9:30 for the 5-minute ride.
Those are lead-in, those are expository sentences that are from the beginning of the story. The climax hasn't happened yet. Something's going to happen at that store or on the way to it. Maybe they'll never get to the store.
Right. So I want the story to start there. Yeah.
Or the cops are going to pull them over. That's your climax. So this story starting very sensibly at the beginning, which is how normal people tell a story. They start at the beginning. Are we normal? We are not. We're starting in the middle. So that's the challenge. You got to find the sentence from the climax. Put it at the beginning, even though, and then you can always go back and say, oh, reader, it was a normal Saturday. You can start filling in the steps that get to the climax. After a couple of sentences, you jump back and tell the story toward the climax so that your reader knows why that's what really happened. And your reader will be way more excited to find this information leading up to the climax if they are still, because remember, cliffhanger, you're always waiting for that resolution. How did you get to be hated by so many people? You know, and Orwell starts there, and then he takes loads of time building back to that. We don't get to that moment until pages and pages have passed. So we're dying to know what happened all that time because we have this unresolved climax in our minds.
Definitely. The more present we can be, the better. So do you remember the trapped underneath the wave, I felt the air leaving my lungs?
Yeah.
So the second sentence is, in those few seconds, I questioned why I'd even tried out for the lifeguard program if I struggled with this simple diving exercise. Great.
Nice.
Right? We've got high drama, we've got clarity, we've got that balance.
And we're starting to meet this person. This is a human being who questions, you know, if I'm struggling with basic diving. So this is a person who's comparing themselves to high standards that they feel like they're not meeting, right? And that is like a profound quality, and also one that's very valuable for a college student to have, because guess what? You will always be falling short of very high standards in college, so it's starting to show us how the writer is psychologically prepared to handle college. Interesting. Do we have other ones like that?
Looking, let's see. And I'm also very wary about time. So I think we're at 5 o'clock, right, Julie? Are we okay on time?
Uh-oh. Yes, we are out of time. No. Sticky fingers, school cafeteria, sticky fingers rubbed on the cheap plastic tables, leaving permanent stains not unlike hieroglyphics. My friend sat across from me, violently sticking pencils into an innocent apple. Holy moly, that is doing two things, giving us the setting. Boy, can we visualize that cafeteria, and also revealing worlds about the inner lives of both the speaker, who sing cheap and stained, and everything's like mysteriously hieroglyphically fallen, and the friend violently sticking pencils into an innocent apple. Now, if this story can sustain this theme of a fall from innocence and what we learn when our illusions crumble, and a reality principle sets in, and we're like, oh, the world is this way. That's a great foreshadowing of it, by using the setting to help carry all of that emotional weight. Dang, I wish we could spend all day looking at these. Lauren was going to take us through, and anyone who could stick around, of course, we're going to stick around for this. But Lauren, why don't you take us through your 3 main points?
Sure. So thanks, Julie. I'm Lauren Sangemino. I work in undergraduate admissions at Stony Brook. I've been in admissions for about 17 years now. So I've read a good number of essays, and these are just some points I just want to point out to you. Some of them have already been mentioned, so we're just going to reiterate them. But if you're passionate about what you're writing, it will be interesting to the readers. So you definitely want to pick something that you're really interested in, that you have a lot of passion in, and use that energy in your writing, because it will definitely come across in your essay, and we will be interested in reading it. Some of the most mundane things, or things that might seem mundane to people, I've read essays about them, and students have been really interested in them, and I never thought of them that way. So it's really great to kind of get a different perspective on things. Don't tell us, show us. So this is something Julie had kind of mentioned before too. You definitely want to be descriptive in your writing. Some of the most memorable essays I've read have been really descriptive. Like Genevieve was talking about, the street that you grew up in and all the different things involved in what went on. And that really helps paint a picture for us. So definitely keep that in mind as well. And lastly, you definitely want to proofread your essay. Don't write the way you talk. I know it might sound silly, but students sometimes do that. So have someone look over it, especially for grammar, spelling, those types of things. Also know that on the Common Application, you have a choice of about 5 different essays, different essay topics. One of them is topic of your choice as well. So really you can write about anything. But when you do write your essay, just know that that one essay is going to all the schools that you're applying to. So if you happen to say why Stony Brook is your top choice, but you're sending it to other schools, they're going to see that in there. So if you do want to include that in your essay, then I would just recommend sending that separately to us or any other school, and just asking that it be added to your file that way. because sometimes, students do want to get specific about their essays and the schools that they're sending them to. So you definitely can do that. You can email us and ask to add it to your file as well. So that's all from me.
All right.
Here are email addresses if you want to get in touch with Lauren or with us at Creative Writing. Those 2 email addresses. And as we mentioned, we'll make this this slideshow available to you. But you guys are, and you see the link in the chat. It's on Google Drive as a PDF. So fingers crossed you're able to access it and download it. But I'm sure Genevieve has some closing words for you all, and I do also. I just want to say, I wish we really honestly could spend hours on the sentences you guys have put into the chat, because they're really, really good. You guys can do this. I can see that. And thank you so much for sharing these sentences with us, Genevieve.
Yeah, and just please know, if we didn't get to it, it does not mean it's terrible. It just means we didn't have time. And thank you so much for contributing, and we appreciate it. So thank you all. Happy writing. Good luck. And thank you so much for being here today.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.